Lucas, and this is chapter 14 of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Norbert, the Norway Ridgeback. Quirrell, however, must have been braver than they'd thought. In the weeks that followed, he'd seemed to be getting paler and thinner, but he didn't look as though he'd cracked yet. Every time they passed a third-floor corridor, Harry and Ron and Hermione would press their ears to the door to check that Fluffy was still growling inside. Snape was sweeping about his usual bad temper, which surely meant the stone was still safe. Whenever Harry passed Quirrell these days, had given him an encouraging sort of smile, had started telling people off for laughing at Quirrell's stutter. Hermione, however, had more on her mind than sorcerers, so she had started drawing up study schedules and color-coding all of her notes. Harry and Ron would have minded, but she kept nagging them to do the same. Hermione the exams are ages away. 10 weeks, Hermione snapped. That's not ages, that's like a second to Nicholas Flamel. But we're not 600 years old, Ron reminded her. Anyway, what are you studying for? You already know it all. What am I studying for? Are you crazy? You realize we need to pass these 3 exams to go into second year. They're very important. I should have started studying a month ago, but I don't know what's gotten into me. Unfortunately, these teachers have been thinking along the same lines, Hermione. They piled so much homework on them that the Easter holiday weren't nearly as much fun as Christmas ones. It was hard to relax with Hermione next to reciting 12 uses of dragon's blood, practicing wand movements, moaning and yarning. Harry and Ron spent most of their free time in the library with her, trying to get through all their extra work. I'll never remember this, Ron burst out in the afternoon, throwing down the hill, quill and looking longingly at the library window. It was her first really fine day that had been in months. The sky was clear, forget-me-not blue. There was a feeling in the night air of summer coming. Harry was looking up Dittany, one of the 1,000 magical herbs and fungi. Don't look up until he said, Hagrid! What are you doing in the library? Hagrid shuffled into view, hiding something behind his back. Excuse me. Hagrid shuffled into view, hiding something behind his back. He looked very out of place in his moleskin overcoat. I'm just looking, he said in a shifty voice that got their interest at once. What are you up to up here? He looked suddenly suspicious. You're not still looking for Nicholas Flamel, are you? Oh, we found out who he is ages ago, said Ron impressively. And, the dog's guarding the Sorcerer's Stone. Shh! Hagrid looked around suddenly to see if anyone was listening. Don't go shouting it out. What's the matter with you? There are a few things that we wanted to ask you, the matter of fact, said Harry. Who's guarding the stone apart from Fluffy? Shh! Listen, come and see me later. I'm not promising I'll tell you anything but mine. But don't go rabbiting about. Students aren't supposed to know. They'll think I've told you. See you later then, said Harry. Hagrid shuffled out. What was hiding behind his back? Said Hermione thoughtfully. Do you think he had anything to do with the stone? I'm going to see what section he was in. I said Ron. He'd had enough of working. He'd come back later, a pile of books and diagrams around his arms, and slammed down them on the table. Dragons, he whispered. Hagrid was looking up stuff about dragons. Look at these dragon species from Great Britain, Ireland, from the Egg of Inferno to Dragon Keeper's Guide. Hagrid's always wanted a dragon. He told me the first time I ever met him. But it's against our law, said Ron. Dragon breeding was outlawed of the Warlocks Convention in 1709. Everyone knows that. It's hard to stop muggles from noticing us. For keeping dragons in the back garden. Anyway, you can't tame dragons. It's dangerous. You should see the burns of Charlie's got off of wild ones in Romania. But there aren't wild dragons in Britain, said Harry. Of course there are, said Helen. Common Welsh Green and Heridan Blacks. The Ministry of Magic has a job hushing them up, I can tell you. Our kind keep putting spells on muggles who spotted them to make them forget. So, what on earth's Hagrid up to? Said Hermione. When they knocked on the door of the gamekeeper's hut an hour Later, they were surprised to see that all the curtains were closed. Hagrid called, "Who is it?" before he let them in, and then shut the door quickly behind him. It was stifling hot outside. Even though it was such a warm day, there was a blazing fire in the grate. Hagrid made them a tea of bread, them stoat sandwiches, which they refused. "So, you wanted to ask me something?" "Yes," said Harry. "When there was no point of beating around the bush, we were wondering if you could tell us what's guarding the Sorcerer's Stone apart from Fluffy." Hagrid frowned at him. "Oh, of course I can't," he said. "Number one, I don't know myself. Number two, you know too much already. So why would I tell you if I could? That stone's there for a good reason. It was stolen out of Gringotts. Suppose you've worked it. That all beats me. How you ever know about Fluffy?" "Oh, come on, Hagrid. You might not want to tell us, but you do know everything that goes on around here," said Hermione in a warm, flattering voice. Hagrid's beard twitched, as he could tell he was smiling. "We only wondered who had done the guarding, really." Hermione went on. "We wondered who Dumbledore had trusted enough to help him apart from you." Hagrid's chest swelled at last words. At Ron beamed Hermione. "Well, I don't suppose it could hurt to tell you that. Let's see. He borrowed Fluffy from me. Then some of the teachers did enchantments. Professor Sprout, Professor Flitwick, Professor McGonagall. He took them off his fingers. Professor Quirrell and Dumbledore himself did something. Of course, hang on, I've forgotten something. Oh yeah, Professor Snape. Yeah. Still on about that, yeah. Look, Snape helped protect the stone. He's not about to steal it." Harry knew Ron and Hermione were thinking the same thing as he was. If Snape had been protecting the stone, it must have been easy to find out the other teachers had guarded it. He probably knew everything except it seemed Quirrell's spell how to get past Fluffy. "You're the only one who knows how to get past Fluffy, aren't you?" "You, Hagrid," said Harry anxiously. "And you would tell anyone, would you?" "Not even one of the teachers." "Not a soul." "Except me and Dumbledore," said Hagrid proudly. "Well, that's something," Harry muttered to the others. "Hagrid, can we have a window open? I'm boiling." "Can't, Harry. Sorry," said Hagrid. Harry noticed him glance at the fire. Harry looked at it too. "Hagrid, what's that?" But he already knew what it was. In fact, in the heart of the fire, underneath the kettle, was a huge black egg. "Ah," said Hagrid, fiddling nervously with his beard. "That's where did you get it, Hagrid?" said Ron, crouching over the fire to get a closer look. It must have cost you a fortune." "Won it last night. I was going down the village, having a few drinks. Got into a game of cards with a stranger. He was quite glad to get rid of it, to be honest." "But what are you going to do with it when it's hatched?" said Hermione. "Well, I've been doing some reading." Pulling a large book out of the pillow. "Gotta get out of the library. Dragon breeding for pleasure and profit. It's about a date, of course, but it's all in here. Keep the egg in the fire, 'cause those mothers breathe on 'em when it hatches. Feed buckets of brandy, mixed with chicken blood every half hour, and see here to get recognized different eggs. What I got here is Norwegian back. They're rare, them." Harry looked very pleased with himself, but Hermione didn't. "Hagrid, you live in a wooden house," she said. Hagrid wasn't listening. He was humming still merrily, as she stoked the fire. "So now what? If something was worse about it, what might happen to Hagrid if anyone felt out what happened if he was hiding an illegal dragon in his hut?" Wonder what it's like to have a peaceful life, Ron sighed as everyone going through. They struggled all of the extra homework they were getting. Hermione and now started making study schedules for Ron and Harry too. It was driving them nuts. Then one breakfast time, Hedwig brought Harry another note from Hagrid. He had written only 2 words. It's hatching. Ron wanted to skip herbology and go straight down to the hut. Hermione wouldn't hear of it. Hermione, how many times in our lives are we going to see a dragon hatching? We've got lessons. We'll get in trouble. And that's nothing to do with what Hagrid's got. What Hagrid's going to be in when someone finds out what he is doing. Shut up, Harry whispered. Malfoy was only a few feet away, and he had stopped dead listening. How much had he heard? Harry didn't look like the look on Malfoy's face at all. Ron and Hermione argued all the way to herbology, and Hermione agreed to run down to Hagrid's with the other two during morning break. When the bell sounded from the castle at the end of their lesson, the 3 of them dropped their towels at once and hurried through the grounds to the edge of the forest. Hagrid greeted them, looking flushed and excited. It's nearly out. He ushered them aside. The egg was lying on the table. There were deep cracks in it. Something was moving inside. A funny clicking noise was coming from it. Click, click, click. They all drew their chairs up to the table. They watched her bating breath again. Click, click, click. All at once there was scraping noise, and the egg nest split open. The baby dragon flopped onto the table. It wasn't exactly pretty. Harry thought it looked like a crumpled black umbrella, and its spiny wings were huge in comparison to its silver jet body. It had a long snout with wide nostrils, stubs of horns, and bulging orange eyes. It sneezed. A couple of sparks flew from its snout. Isn't he beautiful? Hagrid murmured. He reached out his hand to stroke the dragon's head. It snapped at his fingers, showing pointed fangs. Bless him. Look, he knows his mummy, said Hagrid. Hagrid, said Hermione. How fast do Norwegian Ridgebacks grow exactly? Hagrid was about to answer, and then the color suddenly drained from his face, and he looked to his feet out the window. What's the matter? Someone looking through the gap of curtains. It's a kid. He's running back up to her school, to this girl. Harry bolted to the door and looked out. Even in the distance, there was no mistaking him. Malfoy. Draco Malfoy had seen the dragon. Something about that smile lurking on Malfoy's face during the next week made Harry and Ron, Hermione, very nervous. They spent most of their time free in Hagrid's darkened hut, trying to reason with him. Just let him go, Harry urged. Set him free. I can't, said Hagrid. He's too little. He'd die. They looked at the dragon. It had grown 3 times its length in just a week. Smoke kept furling out of its nostrils. Hagrid hadn't been doing gamekeeping duties because the dragon was keeping him so busy. There were empty brandy bottles and chicken feathers all over the floors. I decided to call Norbert, and said Hagrid. Looking at the dragon with my eyes, he really knows me. Watch. Norbert, where's Mummy? He's lost his marbles, Ron muttered in Harry's ear. Hagrid, said Harry. Give it 2 weeks and Norbert's going to be as long as your house. Malfoy could go to Dumbledore at any moment. Hagrid bit his lip very hard. I know I can't keep him forever, but I can't just dump him. I can't. Harry suddenly turned to Ron and Charlie. He said, You're going to lose it too, said Ron. I'm Ron, remember? No, Charlie, your brother Charlie, in Romania, studying dragons. We could send Norbert to him. Charlie can take care of him and put him back in the wild. Brilliant, said Ron. How about it, Hagrid? Brilliant, said Ron. How about it, Hagrid? And at the end, the Hagrid had agreed that they would send an owl to Charlie to ask him. The following week dragged by Wednesday. The night found Hermione and Harry sitting alone in the common room long after everyone had gone to bed. And the clock on the wall had just chimed through midnight when a portrait hole burst open. Ron appeared out of nowhere as he pulled off Harry's invisibility cloak. He had been down to Hagrid's hut helping him feed Norbert, who was now eating dead rats by the crate. "It bit me," he said, throwing them hands, which was wrapped in bloody handkerchief. "I'm not going to be able to hold a quill for a week. I tell you, that dragon's lost the most horrible animal I've ever met." Sorry. But the way Hagrid goes on about it, you'd think it would be a fluffy little bunny rabbit when it bit me. He told me for frightening it, and when I left, I was singing a lullaby. He was singing it a lullaby. There was a tap on the dark window. "It's Hedwig," said Ron. "Let him in. She'll have Charlie's answer." The three of them put their heads together. "Dear Ron, how are you? Thanks for the letter. I'm glad to take the Norwegian Ridge back, but it won't be easy getting him here. I think the best thing we can do is send him over with some friends mine who are coming to visit next week. The trouble is they mustn't be seen carrying an illegal dragon. Could you help the Ridgeback up on the tallest tower on midnight Saturday? They can meet you up there and take him away while it's still dark. Send me an answer as soon as possible. Love, Charlie." They looked at one another. "We've got an invisibility cloak," said Harry. "It shouldn't be too difficult. I think the cloak's big enough to cover two of us and Norbert." It was a mark of how bad it was last week. It had been that the other two agreed with him in anything to get rid of Norbert and Malfoy. There was a hitch. By the morning, Ron's bitten hand was swollen to the size of its usual size, so it doubled its size. He didn't know whether it was safe to go to Madame Pomfrey, would she recognize it was a dragon bite? By the afternoon, she had no choice. She cut to turn the nasty shade of green, looked at Norbert's fangs were poisonous. Harry and Hermione rushed up to the hospital at the end of the day to find Ron in a terrible state in the bed. "It's not just my hand," he whispered, "although it feels like it's about to fall off." Malfoy told Malfoy he wanted to borrow one of my books so he could come and have a good laugh at me. He kept threatening to tell her what really bit me. I told her it was a dog, but I don't think she believed me. I shouldn't have hit him at the Quidditch match. That's why he's always doing this. Harry and Hermione tried to calm Ron down. "It'll be over by midnight on Saturday," said Hermione, but Ron at all. On the contrary, he sat bolt upright and broke into a sweat. "On midnight Saturday," he said into the hoarse voice. Oh no, I've just remembered. Charlie's letter was in that book. Malfoy took it. He's now going to see we're getting rid of Norbert." "Oh no," said Ron. Harry and Hermione didn't get a chance to answer. Madame Pomfrey came over at the moment and made them leave, saying Ron needed sleep. "It's too late to change the plan now," Harry told Hermione. "We haven't gotten time. Send Charlie another owl, and this could be our only chance to get Norbert. We have to risk it. We have to got the invisibility cloak. Malfoy hasn't know much about that dagged tale. When they tell Hagrid, who opened the window to talk to them, we won't let you in," he puffed. "Norbert's a tricky stage, nothing I can't handle." When they told him about Charlie's letter, his eyes filled with tears, and it almost might have been because Norbert had just bitten him on the leg. "Arrgh! All right. He's only got my boot. He's just playing. He's only a baby after all." The baby dragon banged his tail on the wall, making the windows rattle. Harry and Hermione walked back to the castle feeling Saturday couldn't come quickly enough. They would have felt sorry for Hagrid by the time for him to say goodbye to Norbert. He hadn't seemed so worried about what had they do. It was dark, cloudy night when they built light arriving at Hagrid's hut, because they'd had to wait for Peeves to get out of the way in the entrance hall, where he'd been playing tennis against the wall. Hagrid had Norbert packaged, already a large creature. He's Got lots of rats and some brandy fear for their journey, said Hagrid in a muffled voice. And I've packed his teddy bear in case he gets lonely. From inside the crate came ripping noises that sounded Harry as though a teddy bear was having his head torn off. Bye-bye, Norbert, Hagrid sobbed as Harry and Hermione covered his crate with the invisibility cloak and stepped underneath himself. Mummy will never forget you. How they managed to get the crate back into the castle, they never know. The midnight tricked near as they heaved Norbert up marble staircases in the entrance hall, along the dark corridors, up the staircase in another. Even one of Harry's shortcuts didn't make it that work even much easier. Nearly there, Harry panted. As they reached the corridor to beneath the tallest tower, then sudden movement ahead of them made almost drop the crate. Forgetting that they are already invisible, they shrank into the shadows, starting at the dark outlines of two people grappling out with each other 10 feet away. A lamp flared, Professor McGonagall in a tartan bathrobe and her hair net, and Malfoy by the ear. "Attention!" she shouted, and 20 points from Slytherin, wandering around in the middle of the night. "How dare you!" "Don't understand, Professor. Harry Potter's coming. He's got a dragon. What utter rubbish. How dare you tell such lies? Come on, I shall see Professor Snape about you, Malfoy." The steep spiral case up to the top tower seemed the easiest thing to do after all that work getting him up. Not until they stepped into the cold night air did they throw off the cloak, glad to be able to breathe properly again. Hermione did a sort of jig. Malfoy's got detention, I can see. Don't, Harry advised her. Chuckling about Malfoy, they waited, Norbert thrashing about in his crate. About 10 minutes later, 4 broomsticks came swooping down out of the darkness. Carly's friends were cheery alert. They showed Harry and Hermione harness they'd rigged up so they could suspend Norbert between them. They all helped buckle Norbert safely into it. Harry and Hermione shook their hands with the others. They thanked him very much. At least Norbert was gone. They slipped back down the spiral staircase as their hearts light as their hands. Now that Norbert was off them, no more dragon, Malfoy in detention. What could spoil their happiness? Anything? The answer to that was waiting at the foot of the stairs. As they stepped into the corridor, Filch's face loomed suddenly out of the darkness. "Well, well, well," he whispered. "We are in trouble." They lifted the cloak on the top of the tower. That is the end of chapter 14, and I shall see you guys next time for chapter 15.